Welcome to From the Pilot's Seat. Join me as we explore real aviation stories, lessons learned, and incredible flying machines. If you love flying or want to learn, hit subscribe and come along for the ride. For deeper insights, check out my books, Lessons from the Sky and From the Pilot's Seat. They could make all the difference on your next flight. Emergency communications. A-10 Thunderbolt operational information withheld September 2008. While leading a two-ship of A-10s for a close air support training mission, I descended the formation below the MOA for a simulated troops in contact situation. As I came off target for my last pass at approximately 1,000 feet and almost 90 degrees of bank, the cockpit started to fill with smoke. I immediately rolled wings level, started a climb, and made a knock-it-off call and informed the flight of my smoke and fume situation. The smoke had a toxic smell, burned my eyes, and was becoming very intense. I quickly ran the smoke and fumes elimination checklist from memory, but it wasn't getting any better. The smoke made it difficult to see in or out of the cockpit. My wingman confirmed that I was still wings level and headed in the right direction. I informed him that I had run the smoke and fumes elimination checklist, and the smoke wasn't dissipating. He asked me to confirm one of my switches, and he was spot on. I had accidentally put a switch in the wrong position when applying the smoke and fumes elimination procedures. Once corrected, the smoke quickly cleared, but the odor was still intense and my eyes were watering from the fumes. Now was my first chance to scan the cockpit, and I noticed that number 1 engine oil was below limits. I brought the throttle to idle in accordance with the checklist and was able to get the oil within limits. I had my wingman read the oil system malfunction checklist to ensure I hadn't overlooked anything. Then, I declared my emergency with approach control, switched to tower to coordinate my arrival, and ensure the emergency information was correctly relayed from approach. While I did this, I had my wingman coordinate with the SOF. He informed him of the emergency, the checklists run, and current status and game plan. I landed uneventfully from a straight-in approach. The lesson I learned from this situation was the importance of good communication during an emergency. As flight lead, I quickly communicated my problem following the knock-it-off call and again when I discovered the oil was out of limits. This allowed my wingman the opportunity to offer better mutual support and to help think through my emergency. Instead of struggling with the smoke and possibly jettisoning the canopy, I kept my wingman in the loop. I didn't rush to declare an emergency and avoided multiple questions from ATC that I wasn't ready to answer. Lastly, I reduced my task load by having my wingman coordinate with the SOF while I spoke with tower. The communication from my wingman was outstanding. He initially stayed off the radio and allowed me to work the problem. Later, when it was appropriate, he wasn't afraid to offer a suggestion when I told him the smoke wasn't clearing. His input was critical in handling the emergency. When I told him I was bringing the engine to idle for the low oil pressure, he again kept quiet and just thought through the situation. His thorough radio call to the SOF included my initial indications, the checklists I'd run, and results, and finally a game plan. The communication from ATC and SOF was minimal, just like you would want. My calls to ATC and my wingman's call to the SOF provided all the information they needed to do their jobs. This was important because they have a responsibility to assist in an emergency, and if they're kept in the dark, chances are they're going to start asking questions, probably at the worst possible time. You, in the emergency aircraft, have now lost some control of your situation. It's much better to push information to outside agencies than have them continually trying to pull information from you. Lessons learned. While this mishap proved to be an example of good communication, I've also experienced really poor examples of communication during emergency situations. Take, for example, Those times when you inform the RSU controller that you have an emergency so you can enter their pattern or get a chase ship, but get way more than you expected. The controller feels obligated to question you on every step of the checklist. Then they start offering suggestions for recovering the aircraft. SOFs can be guilty of this also. This comm jamming can be very distracting, reducing the pilot's situational awareness and overall hampering the situation. The exact opposite can also happen. The SOF or RSU controller that does nothing and confirms nothing can have equally poor outcomes. Let's assume there's an emergency in progress, but the pilot hasn't communicated anything to outside agencies. In this case, the SOF or RSU then needs to start pulling information and not be so passive. If they recognize the emergency is being poorly handled, they should speak up. They can't assume just because it's a qualified pilot that everything is being handled correctly. The SOF and RSU have the advantage of being ground speed zero to make more rational decisions, and they also have all the necessary publications. As with any communications, you should always strive for C4 communications: clear, concise, correct, and cool, especially during an emergency. Clearly and concisely state your emergency. Correctly communicate to the SOF what systems you've lost and what indications you have. What does the emergency pilot expect from their flight lead or wingman, RSU, or SOF? What's expected of the emergency pilot? When does too little or too much communication detract from handling the emergency situation? You ask a single-seat fighter pilot what they want to hear from their wingman, and some still expect nothing but, "Lead, you're on fire." So what's the answer? It depends. The difference between good and bad communication during an emergency situation can be very small, but the outcome can be enormously different. If you love flying or want to learn, hit subscribe and come along for the ride. For deeper insights, check out my books, Lessons from the Sky and From the Pilot's Seat. They could make all the difference on your next flight.